Good evening and welcome back to the Entrefluential Life podcast. This is your host, John Tanner. Welcome to season 2.
And I'm your co-host, Sebastian Tanner.
And today we have a very special guest, Dr. Nisha Manek. She's joining us from California. Hi, Nisha. How are you?
Hello, John and Sebastian. I'm so delighted to be with you both today.
Oh, no, we are delighted to have you here.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
very exciting for me. So, let me give you a little bit of background. So, our show, we talk about physical, mental, and spiritual wellness and entrepreneurial tips, right? Which is like entrepreneurship skills, influence building skills, and we combine it all together in our shows, right? So, spirituality is a big deal for us. We come at it from a Christian worldview, but we're open to respecting anybody who has belief in spirituality and how it has an impact on our lives because we believe that we have a soul and so that our souls are connected with everything in the world. And so I'm excited to hear your take on this from a medical doctor's perspective, especially having read your introduction to your book. With all the research that you've done is phenomenal, and so I want to hear about your study of physics and let's just dive in.
Okay. Well, first of all, John, thank you. I'm in the right place. If spirituality is a core concept for entrepreneurial, I was trying to practice that. It didn't roll quite off the tongue. But you're right. You're right. The body, the emotions, the mind, and spiritual practice, right? So, here I am, medical doctor, and I'm really analytical, linear scientist, data analysis all day long. I was at Stanford University. And from Stanford University, which is one of the leading institutions for immunology and arthritis, I go to the Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. And so the Mayo is three shields. You have excellence in clinical care, excellence in teaching, and excellence in research. So I was very involved in science. But I'll tell you, I'm from Kenya. I'm from a Hindu family. Now, John, if you could see my library right now, I have companions. I have Buddha, I have Father Padre Pio, I have Mother Mary, and Lord Shiva. So, in my Hindu tradition, there was something I carried throughout my life. Okay, I could have been in Glasgow University Medical School, Stanford University, or the Mayo Clinic. So, there was this underlying thread of spirituality. And guess what? In medicine, they don't talk about that. My education was this huge hole, and I felt it. I really felt it that at the bedside, we were giving more chemicals and drugs and research. And there was this aha moment. We're not really getting to the core of somebody's story, somebody's spiritual or lack of spiritual practice. We don't even pray at the bedside, okay? So medicine is a hit and miss. Medicine is an art, and we don't always solve the problems. And so I really left an excellent career. I mean, come on, Mayo Clinic, it was prestigious. You're on a rocket ship to professorship. And I said, I'm leaving. I'm going to go over here because we've got to look for answers in healing where medicine isn't looking. And at that time, this was 2012, I looked in energy. I thought, I know there's things in the body my anatomy classes didn't show me, but they're there. They're there. And so I sought out the advice of Dr. Bill Tiller. He's a giant of physics at Stanford. He just passed away, actually. He was in his 80s by that time. And I knew I have to run with this or I'm going to be at Mayo forever. Okay. So it was this or this. And so I took a big jump, you might say, into the unknown, into the unknown. I don't know physics. I don't know equations. Come on. I had no curriculum, no funding. but I had courage. And I knew somehow Tiller had done research that was truly revolutionary. So I'm going to stop there, because if you have questions, just jump in, because I like to talk.
Okay, great. So no, listen, I have to say I respect Mayo Clinic a lot. We have a Mayo Clinic here in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 Mayo Clinics in America.
There's 3 actually. So Scottsdale, Arizona,
Okay.
Jacksonville, but the mothership
Minnesota.
is in Rochester, Minnesota.
Of all places, the Minnesota gets like 40 below zero, doesn't it?
Boy, I have been there and done that. But I'll tell you one thing. Okay, so here I am. Mayo Clinic is a cauldron of minds from all around the world. You can have people from Kenya, like me, Hindu, and you have people from Scandinavia, Italy, South America. We're all in it together. If there's one thing I can tell you about the Mayo Clinic, it's this. There's one line mantra. It taught me something. Mayo has this excellent line, which everybody gathers around. That is, the interest of the patient are the only ones to be concerned about. The patient is front and center. So, you do everything. You research about them, you read about them, but you still do chemical medicine. You do x-rays, you do blood tests, and you do chemical medicine. But it is excellent in terms of conventional care, right? So you have all these different people, different backgrounds coming together under that one banner, one mantra.
Okay.
Pretty unique.
So the conventional care, they're doing research, so they're trying to be, top avant-garde treatment, right? And so that's fantastic, but they don't have the spiritual treatment, right? And so you felt hungry, you had to go elsewhere, which is why you connected with Dr. Tiller. I want to go rewind the clock back a little bit and ask you, like, what was your childhood like? Were your parents spiritual? Were your parents doctors? What was your interest in medicine, and where did you begin thinking about supernatural, higher, more than this physical body, like there's right spirituality. Like where did that begin?
Well, I grew up in Kenya. I actually grew up on the equator. Okay, it's a tiny village, and in the highlands of Kenya, in the tea growing estates. And then I moved to Nairobi. My family actually moved from the highlands at the base of Mount Kenya to Nairobi because we needed school. My first schooling was under trees in the dirt. Okay, I know that. Okay, this is how you get educated. This is the reality. And then I attended a primary school in Kenya, in Nairobi. And from there went to high school. And then here's the thing. Kenya doesn't have much opportunity. I grew up in the 1970s, and you only had one university, the University of Nairobi, and there was no medical school or anything. But I'll tell you, no, my folks are not doctors. There's nobody in science. It was me. But I think what was really wonderful in my family it was a couple of things. One, spiritual life was really central. And I'll give you one example that really immediately comes to mind. Now, just imagine, I lost my dad when I was quite young. So my mother was very, very core in my life, in my growing up, as we came from an extended family, but she was really front and center, your mother. And one time we would pray every day. And in every Hindu home, there's a little temple. You put your little Krishna, you put your little Shiva, and you light a candle and you pray. I mean, that's every day. And you offer a piece of fruit or something. And then one day, and I was 5 or 6, and my mom turned to me and said, "Would you ever give God a rotten fruit?" And I thought, oh my God, how could you even think of that? And she says, like that, you must give yourself to God in the ripeness of youth. Don't wait till you're 70 and with a walker trying to go to Himalayas. You have to do this now. And it was so striking to me. I still remember that. That in the ripeness and vitality of this life, give yourself in the service of God. Because once you do that, life is really juicy. It's really fun. Okay. And you seek truth. You seek that unwavering, because that's timeless. So to me, to seek truth was science, the truth that science gives us, objectivity in the lab, in the crucible of excellence of what the mind can construct. But I'll tell you, unless you have a spiritual underpinning, you will lose your way. And we are seeing that. We have everything. My phone, I have every library and information at my fingertips. Unless you have discernment, I'm sorry, John. Okay. We have geeks in basements making startups. That's not where it is. We want people to meditate, to understand. And that's what Tiller brought.
Okay, I love that you brought up meditation, because I remember reading in your introduction that Dr. Tiller told you if you were going to apprentice with him, that you were going to have to meditate every day. So
Yeah.
did you start in 2006, was it?
No. So I had this, I told you I had that. I went through medical school in Scotland, and I'll tell you, it was very hard. It's not an easy thing to dive into the human body by all of the things that you need to learn to just graduate. And this is what I used to do. And I look back in the study rooms in the university, I would put headphones, and this is, I didn't know the significance of this, but I played Gregorian chants. Gregorian chants, okay?
Like that.
Which is, to this day, I had no idea why I did that, but I knew, and I could remember, and I could connect, and I could understand the Latin. By the way, Glasgow University is Latin. These kids who went to Scotland have Latin backgrounds. And if you learn anatomy, you have to learn Latin. Look at me in Kenya. I know Latin, okay? Zero Latin, okay? I speak Swahili. I speak Hindi. I speak English, even that badly. So the Gregorian chant is spiritual music, okay? And it linked it up in my brain. I could recall. Actually, I graduated in the top 20 of my class. It's the largest medical school in the UK. I think it's any one class is 250 people. Excellent students. So I can tell you,
there's something to be said about the Gregorian chants. I need to listen to that. I've heard of that before, and I have not listened to it yet. So now you're giving me a mental sticky note to look it up. How about solfeggio frequencies? Have you?
Oh, well done. Because you know something? I prescribe them for my patients.
I've listened
Because
to them so many
see,
times.
solfeggio is energy. So you have these sound waves, energetic, and they have specific tones with specific sort of effects on your body. And I have solfeggio 9 that I actually prescribe. That's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And some of my patients have to, and they tell me, oh my God, this is awesome. I put them on and I fall asleep. But there's deep information and healing. It goes deep into your cellular system.
Wow.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
That's fantastic. I love that.
But John, I want to bring back to your one question, because I want to press upon this point, okay? Because you said Tiller, when he refused that you should even do this, like study physics, like, come on, Nisha, Dr. Manek, go back to Mayo. You do not belong in my universe. Essentially, that's what he said. And I was so crushed, because I really didn't know how do you develop spirituality at the bedside, because really I was trying to do that, and I did do that. I used to do solfeggio music. Psalm 91 is I would print it off and give it to my patients. So what happened was, the point when he said, can you meditate? I want you to meditate. And to me, it was, wow, slam dunk. Now, just imagine, John, I was at the Mayo. I went to Stanford. I went to Glasgow. Where in any of these institutions did they write, do you meditate? The most important human skill to admit anyone, you should say, do you meditate if you want to sell real estate? Do you meditate if you want to get in my clinic? Do you meditate if you want to be the front desk person? Well, that was a game changer. I knew I had found my mentor, because if he puts that emphasis, that's where I want to be. Because he said something, I knew he practiced it too, and he did.
Well, I think there's more to be said about that whole phenomenon, because your openness to wanting to study under him, especially having an impact with him meditating, it's profound. I just think
It
it's
was
profound.
And
I
you
think
know what?
it's
He
very
never
profound.
told me what to do or how to do it. That was up to me.
You
That
said
was
you
up
figured
to
that
me.
part out on your own, right? You
Well,
figured if you have an
that
MD,
was
you could
easy.
figure it out.
That was easy. But, I remember in the first few months when I moved to Scottsdale, I mean, I just went to my chairman in Mayo and said, I'm out of here, okay? I packed up my Jeep and left. I mean, zoom.
I love that story. I love that. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
reading that.
And so here we are in a vegetarian restaurant in Scottsdale. It was his favorite, it was my favorite. I'm vegetarian. And he said, Nisha, and he's doing this to me like very kindly. He was this really tall man, and I'm 5'1", and he's really tall. We were sitting at the table, and he says, Nisha, when you meditate and you take that practice, you think you're going to solve everything like by tomorrow. I want you to know something, that the chaos will come and you must resolve it. Look at it and resolve it. And then another stack will come in. And then there will come a time that there will be silence and peace. And he was right. Now, in the morning, my mantra, John, if I can share with you and Sebastian, is this: pray, eat, exercise. Okay? In that order: pray, eat, and exercise. Is it that difficult?
No,
No.
not at all. I love it.
No.
All right, so I have a similar one. I have my morning mental exercises, MMEs, which is positive affirmations, which I do while listening to solfeggio frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm done with that, I go and I exercise. Oh, I'm sorry, I meditate. I use Headspace. Are you familiar with Headspace?
Yes, I know Headspace.
Okay, I use Headspace, and I'll do like 15 minutes, and then I'll go exercise. So that's my morning routine, right? Physical, mental, spiritual.
Yes. So now, in telemedicine, because my practice is now 100% telemedicine, and it's fine because I reach many, many people all around the country. That's what we do. We literally, just breathe for a few moments, calm down. It's okay. We have time. I want to hear your story. We will get there, but calm down, because they want to tell me everything. Okay, so it's a question of, let's just close your eyes, take a breath, go down into your heart, and stay there a minute or two, and they have a different face. And then at the end of the visit, we seal it, and we sometimes write an intention. I teach them what is that intention, because intention moves our world. By intention, I'm here with you on time. Okay.
I love that. So let's talk about that intention for a second. I saw some video somewhere that there was these protons, I guess, they were being shot out by some radar gun, whatever. And when the camera was looking at the whatever the atoms that were hitting the wall, it, before the camera looked at the atoms, they were hitting the same spots over and over again. But as soon as the camera was introduced, then the spots started going everywhere. Do you know what I'm talking
The
about?
observer effect.
the observer. It changed the outcome just
Yeah.
by looking at it.
Yes. So people have really, this is a big mystery in physics. What is the observer effect? Hey, I'll tell you one thing, okay? Because I have thousands of hours with Dr. Tiller on camera, I used to meet with him, just him and me, and I would put my camera on. He says, yeah, do whatever
Your
you
flip
need to
phone.
do, but be present. He always said, be present, because he would say things and I'd say, can you repeat that? Because I'm trying to take notes. I'm a good student. And he said, Nisha, I don't know what I said. I don't prepare. You got to find a system. And I said, okay. Can I record our meetings? Do whatever you want. It's yours. It's your scholarship. And so would you believe it, John, just a few weeks ago, I was looking at a segment when he says the double slit experiment. What happens when you put the cameras and shine a light on these electrons going through one slit and double slits and whatever? Okay, there's a interference pattern, and it's been a mystery. And he says, "Oh, Nisha, God is the ultimate observer." And I remember thinking, that
Wow.
is so beautiful.
Mhm.
But there's more. And I won't tell you right now, but he was right. John, look, we think we own our thoughts, my mind, my name, Nisha Manek, right? Me, 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 me. Look, in the highest mystical teachings, you're not the doer. So get rid of that. God is the ultimate observer. He just said it very nicely. God is the observer. And I remember being so struck by that we had a period of silence. So he was really a sage in that sense, really a sage in his science. And he knocked it out of the park with that one sentence. And he said, one time he said, and he made it into Bridging Science and Spirit, because I would complain to him, science cannot reach consciousness. It will never get there through brain science, and forget all that. And he said, oh yeah, Nisha, science is a way to self-knowledge. Just as spiritual practices, you begin to know yourself. So with science, you can know thyself, And so as you go through the draft, I hope you will see and you'll build your knowledge and you go, wow, we are avatars in the making. Woohoo! Woohoo! Okay.
That was a good analogy.
Yeah.
So that's all right. That's phenomenal. So I can't wait to dive into the full book. Can you tell us, give us a tour of the book, like a cursory view of what
Yeah.
you talk about in each chapter?
Yeah. So there's now it's Bridging Science and Spirit, and it's constructed like a bridge. There's 7 pillars. Remember, Tiller is actually a physicist and he was an engineer. And engineers, by their very education and mindset, connect dots and they create new things, new buildings, new bridges. So when I approached writing Bridging Science and Spirit, it was obvious it needed to be a bridge. The first bridge is, how did we get here? Okay. How did we, and the way we got to the modern scientific method is Descartes, objectivity, the skeptical mind, and I call him the homo dubitat, the homo doubting mind, okay? The pillar number 2 is I approach the question of consciousness. What is it? And then I close that pillar of consciousness because remember, we think consciousness is the brain, and I'm saying, no, it's not. It's not some spatial thing. Consciousness is a field. Third, we enter the world of energy. Energy drives our nature all around us. We consume energy, our toothbrush, my hot cup of coffee, me talking to you, my driving my car. So energy is everywhere. You need to understand how energy transforms and drives us in our nature, which drives, by the way, biology. Pillar number 4, his target experiments, where he showed just by holding a thought, his intent, he changed materials without doing anything, without touching it physically. I thought, this is impossible. This is no way, Jose, that he could do that. But he did. I went to his labs. I saw the data. I could see what the protocol was all about. That's pillar 4. Pillar 5, he stumbled into something that is the secret of why intentions manifest really fast. And that was, I'm laughing because he didn't know. He didn't know. When you do research, you look at lots of variables, and it was staring in his face because there was really anomalous behavior of the lab. So dive into pillar 5. What does this mean for medicine? That's pillar 6. That's information medicine. And finally, we go to pillar 7, where we took his protocol and verified spiritual reality. And my partner in science there was Buddha himself. That's why you have Buddha and Tiller on the front cover.
I love the cover. All right, so what's the main takeaway from somebody who's going to read your book, go through all those chapters, cover all those bridges, right? Cross all those bridges.
Yeah.
What's the main takeaway that they're going to walk away with? How are they going to feel when they're done putting the time in of reading the book?
Intention matters.
That's the key
Intention
takeaway.
matters. Yes. Leave your doubts out. And if you're not sure, scientifically, it's been shown. And if Tiller can do it, then you're on the track to becoming a master Jesus. By these actions and greater, you will become. That's a biblical teaching. So if Buddha's consciousness is surviving today, it's because of his intention, which is loving kindness. Intention matters.
Oh, love
And
matters.
the more we teach our patients, the more we teach our children these skill sets, you free them. You're setting yourself free, inner freedom, but you have to have the intention. Intention matters.
So if I'm a patient, oh, actually, this applies to, I mean, it really does apply to everything. So if I'm a patient, I'm also thinking of Henry Ford, and he said, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Either way, you're right. Yes.
Either way, you're right. So if I'm a patient, if I'm ill, it really matters that I have faith that I'm going to get better. I may not, but if I have faith, I'm going to influence my healing.
Absolutely. Your intention is key variable in your body's health. There is no question in my mind now. And pillar 6, I go into case reports of that. Okay, and they're very simple. The book is really simply written. People get scared. Oh, physics. No, don't be scared. And it has all my doodles. I mean, if anything, you've got to look at my doodles. Okay, there's a lot of art in there because I'm a visual learner. But there is no question in my mind. Your intention is a source of energy that does work to heal your body. Okay?
I love that. I'm all about positive intentions. Everything that I do here at the Entrefluential Life is all about motivating people to be the best version of themselves. Mm-hmm. And so the positive intentions, like, do well, do good.
Yeah.
Right? And anyway, so like I have a question for you, because I have a book that I'm reading, and I'm on pause from it, but it's Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Are you familiar with this?
Well, Dr. Joe, I call him Dr. Joe, and Tiller were good friends. And they were both they were good friends. And, they were in the iconic documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know, which really showcased that we are ultimately in charge. We think it's all out there. No. It's you. And the more you identify with the God with you, then things start to resolve. Then you have a really happy life. So Dr. Joe and Tiller were very good friends. And Dr. Joe went on, he's a chiropractor, and he went on to develop his own methods of meditation, their camps. He's now very famous. I don't know that particular book, but I understand his angle and his premise. Yes.
I see. Okay. Very cool. There was something else I was going to ask you, and it slipped my mind. Sebastian, do you have any questions?
Well, something. While she was saying that, I'm not sure if it's so much of a question, but it's kind of something that I
A
put two and two
statement?
together when what I was thinking as she was speaking. She was saying how what I took from that was like a lot of people think that everything bad happening to them is just the environment. Like, oh, I'm in this place and it's just everything's going wrong because they didn't do this right for me, or they like blaming everything else. And then once you look to yourself and start holding yourself accountable and having the self awareness of what am I doing to make things right? How are my thoughts? Am I thinking positively about my situation or negatively? So it's like your perspective. When you change the perspective, you realize, like she said, it's all in here. It's in us. So me having a good job or good friendships or whatever, in a way, starts with me because it's how am I thinking about those things? Am I, you know?
Yeah. I'm thinking back to some time that you had went on a job interview, and when you came back, you're like, I owned it. And I was like, yeah, well, you went in there owning it, as opposed to prior times, like you went out to a job interview and you felt negative going in.
Yeah.
You're already set yourself
Yeah,
up.
so you're shifting from a sense of victimhood, yeah,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
victimhood to you have a shift in an end. You heal your mind. You heal your
Yeah, I feel like that's what I went through. Yeah,
Mhm.
this past couple of years, I feel like that's kind of where I was. Especially when I was younger, I would always blame and never really took much of accountability. So if
Yeah.
I wasn't, putting enough effort in school or whatever the case would be, and my parents are telling me this and that and the other, and I'm always deflecting. I would never really take that
Wow.
accountability, blaming
Yeah.
everything else. And so as I got older, my mindset started to shift, and I started to realize, like, and especially if someone's giving me advice, and I always used to say I know all the time. Everything was I know this and that, and I thought I knew everything. And so once I could kind of become more humble and realize, okay, there's no way I could even know. There's so much to know that I have to realize I know very little, and I have much
Oh,
to learn.
Sebastian, you are a wise young man. What a
Thank you.
mentor. No, you are. So I honor you. This is absolutely how young people, you're the next leader. You are a leader. You're here in StreamYard and
Hmm.
doing this wonderful podcast. So you're enriching, but you're coming from a position of, oh, a sponge. Let me take these skills and let me look inside. Let me grow. You're growing in consciousness. That's why
Yes.
we're here in planet Earth, okay? This rock, this is Schoolhouse Earth, sir, okay? And it's really
Yeah.
tough. There are many other universes which are very nice, but here we grow by the
Yeah.
sweat, okay? And we write books and we talk on podcasts and we grow. We grow.
Yeah.
Well done,
So
Sebastian.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
so a while back, it was actually in 2020 when I published a book called Entrefluential Networking in Real Estate. And one of my theories inside of the book was making a comparison of the synaptic bridge, how we record memory in multiple different
Mhm.
clusters in the brain. We can do the same thing with our networking groups. So we have like a synaptic bridge network
Yes.
pulling. So like, let's say that you're in 5 different networking groups,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have somebody who comes along and who knows you from one of those other groups. You have double the authority, right? Because that person knows you from group A. Now they see you in group C or D, right? And now they say, "Oh yeah, I love Dr. Manek. She's amazing," right? So
Yeah.
your authority jumps right to a higher level. So it's just like exponential growth. So anyway, I think that the way that the synaptic bridge works in transmitting signals from cells, right, is kind of like there's an invisible synaptic bridge
Mm-hmm.
that transmits information from our body to other people's bodies, no matter where you are.
Absolutely. You nailed it, John. So, what you're talking about is the field. A field is continuous, there are no gaps. Okay. We think empty space is empty, it's not. And so, and when you read pillar number 5, particularly, and this is the key thing, that physical space we think is, you are there, John, and I'm over here, but we are actually connected more than just this Zoom or this StreamYard. There is entanglement. It is very real. In medicine, we don't talk like that, but it's very real. And that really comes down to even our medicines and clinical trials. We think doctor is here, patient is over there, this chemical medicine trial A is here, sugar pill is here, but there's entanglement effects that are at play. Who is going to even do the math? Tiller did. Okay, and that was my first paper published, that the physics of entanglement underlies the placebo effects, not just your belief, but there's something very real going on. You're right about the synaptic connections. Okay, we're always influencing each other by our consciousness. The more conscious you are, wowza. Okay,
which is why meditation is so important.
Oh, it's wonderful, because then you get to know you, your preferences, your prejudices, and you can choose again. Like Sebastian said, I'm not going to be a victim. I am accountable. And he shifted. Right?
That's
This
fantastic.
young man is amazing. Yeah.
It's like taking the remote control back.
You are in charge, okay? And you own it, because the remote control was never lost. You just sort of got distracted and it's right over there, just
you're stuck on one station.
Yeah.
Or another.
But I like the synoptic way of, I can see the map and how it branches. Yeah. It's organic. It's organic, right?
I had a dream one time when I was in Houston, Texas, that I was sick. I was recovering from shingles after having COVID. Same year.
Yeah.
It's awful. And I had this dream that there was a blue and gold dome placed over me to protect me. It was like kind of like a honeycomb. And I feel like that's everything. There's like this huge honeycomb and we're all connected inside of it, or like a big spider web and we're all connected together through that web. Invisible web.
So, that's beautiful. That's a really beautiful visualization. And you have to thank your guides, because you do have guides. All of us have guides that look out for us. You have to pray to them, invoke them. Tiller actually did that. He visited Los Angeles on a What the Bleep conference on stage with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he came for dinner to my home, and he had done these experiments with the fruit flies to make them healthier. Now imagine that a physicist is taking care of this living system with his intention, because he wanted to test it. So he did that in his Stanford labs. He hooked up with a biologist, Michael Cohen. But here's the thing. So I'm washing dishes and he's talking to my family. You know what he said? He said, the devas of the fruit fly gave me permission in my dream to do my experiment. I whirled around. What do you mean devas? He said, devas, angels. Every animal, every entity on planet Earth has guides. And because I wasn't harming the fruit flies, I was given permission. I was shocked. A physicist is saying something. Now, I'm giving something very intimate here on your program. But let me say this. All of us have guides. For me, it's Angel Raphael, okay? And I didn't even know that until one of the nuns in Mayo Clinic said, Dr. Manek, I know you're leaving the clinic. I'm so sorry, but it's been such a pleasure to know you. And she whirled on her wheelchair. She says, by the way, I just see that you will have great travel in your life, and you must invoke Saint Raphael. And he's also the Archangel of Healers. I had no idea what she was talking about. I said, just a moment, Sister Charlotte. I go to my office. I look in my purse. I had this little prayer card, which I'd never looked at for years. It was in my purse. I said, I come out again and I show it to Sister Charlotte. She said, oh, Saint Raphael. That's him. That's it. I thought,
wow. All right. Can I blow your mind?
Yeah.
Can I blow your mind? Okay.
But blow my mind.
I'm gonna take my camera and I'm
Uh-huh.
going to turn it around so you can see my computer screen, right? This is a show. Let me
Mm-hmm.
show you what I was listening to this morning on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube.
Oh.
Archangel
Oh.
Raphael.
Yes. So I'll tell you, Raphael, there was a time in the Bridging Science and Spirit, the connector of the bridge from pillar 5 to 6 was weak. My editor says, Dr. Manek or Nisha, the bridge is going to collapse over here. You need to do some work, okay? And I thought, but this is so rare. The science is not in medicine. I don't know how to make the connections here. But she was right. And I remember that day, that evening, I really prayed. I actually prayed to Raphael, give me a solution, because I've searched the NIH database, PubMed, and blah, blah, blah. And in 5 minutes, I went back to the NIH.gov site. And out of the corner of my eye came a reference, just popped up. I have no idea. I went, oh, I poop it up. It was amazing. It linked 5 and 6, boom. And she went, Nisha, how do you do this? I said, I didn't. I prayed over this. Okay.
You downloaded the information.
I was a witness to something happening. It was responding to my call for help. Okay. So this is what I mean. We have guides, we have to call for help. And ultimately, it's recognizing our own inner teacher. Ultimately, you sometimes I tell, I have my new course coming up, but it went through a pilot stage, rheumatoid relief. And I said to my patients, or the group that did the pilot, I said, you know something, folks? Live your life as a teacher. Don't die as a student. Because with all of this, you are now a teacher. Sebastian is a teacher. Don't die on this planet as a student. Rise up. Become a teacher. Teach each other. Teach this, what we have learned, to your grandchildren. Set them free.
I love that. I actually have had this conversation on the show before that I feel like, so I believe in God and I believe in the devil. And I feel like there's so many people that have negative voices out there in the world, and God wants us to pick up the microphone and share positive voices in the world. Now, maybe that's harmonization that's happening. Maybe it's a overcome of good over evil, which is how I perceive things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either way, we need to put positive energy out into the world. And so I feel
Well,
like this
yeah.
whole process is this show is about doing that, sharing
I'll tell you, if
goodness.
this reassures your viewers, your listeners, the conditions for love exist in the worst circumstances. And Viktor Frankl showed that.
Oh, that's right, the Holocaust.
Okay. Okay. He was,
Psychocybernetics.
sorry.
Psychocybernetics
No,
is his book.
that's another. He was a plastic surgeon who wrote that book, the Psychocybernetics. He said, yeah, it's in your mind. You're
Oh,
the
Maxwell
inner.
Maltz.
But Viktor Frankl, here he is. He's lost his wife. He's lost everything. He's lost his dignity, but he hadn't lost his mind. And it came to him that I am still in control from my mind. And the conditions of love exist here. The same with the Dalai Lama's monks in China. China is coming, they're destroying monasteries. You know what the monks did? The very high level monks? They pray for the guard that's coming for them. That, John, amazing. Okay, so conditions of, I mean, I can't imagine. So forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they're doing. I'm getting goosebumps, by the way. So there is the conditions for love exist in the worst circumstances. So there's only one motivator in all of the cosmos. It's love. Now, the degrees of that is like a light switch. I could switch off my light. I just did. Okay, so I can increase to Christ consciousness, which is such blazing light. Or you remove the light, you dim it, dim it, dim it, dim it. So it's darkness. That's what we call, those contrasts is what we call devil and God, okay? But ultimately, there's only one quality, it's love, the presence and the degree of love. We want to turn our faces to God, to the love,
To the light.
because I don't care what you say. Even Byron Katie, you know, she woke up rat infested somewhere, okay, and she knew that I'm in charge. I have to do something. There's nothing out there. It's me. Just like Sebastian said, it's nothing out there. I am. I am God. God, be still and know I am. Be. That's it. Silence. I get very excited with spiritual teachings because I love it so much. It's, if there's one, I told you, pray, eat, and exercise, or pray, contemplation.
Well, so one of my beliefs is that because God created us in His image, that we're godlike. We create. We're creators,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So as we go out and we create, hopefully good things, right? Because we have the ability to create bad things too. But I think there's a cap on that too. Like I think only God will only allow so many Hitlers out into the world. Otherwise, there would be complete devastation. The game would be over.
But you see, ultimately, John, there is no white man in a cloud with beard and doing things. No, everything you see is the construct of human consciousness. And he does that through intention. Tiller said intention is a process of creation. By creating, we're growing in consciousness. And you made the really salient point: create things that sustain you, that bring you joy, that make solfeggio tones ring in your ears, that you can fire up your computer and create equations. You're creating and discovering and creating. So intention is a process of creation. And it is by the tool of intention that your consciousness grows. You transcend levels. You don't stay with the old program and stuck story. Poor me. Oh, me and me. I'm going, okay, that's enough. Stop the kindergarten. Become a teacher. Right? So
in the end, as we wrap things up, I'm so glad that you came on to share your spiritual and scientific bridge, the Nexus. I love that you can. I feel like all the best art is a nexus of two different things, right? You take two items, combine them together. That nexus is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Where it gives new birth, right, to something, a new phenomenon, right? And so like that's what you're doing with your book. You're connecting science, you're connecting spirituality, you're at the nexus. This is brilliant. This is, I think, the next evolution that we're going through as humans. We're escalating on a higher level of consciousness, of awareness. And so what you're doing here is avant-garde, it's cutting edge, it's the beginning of the new, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting that all of this is the ancient teachings of contemplation and meditation and intention. You know, the masters of Vedic teachers in Himalayas wrote that down. You can read those, Rig Veda and all that. So Tiller's science gives a modern flavor that, yes, this is true. That's all. But it's still, and that's what Tiller's science will stand the test of time. It's not going to go. It's never going to go, because he shows that you and me are avatars in the making. I mean, I said that earlier, but it really is true. So if I can leave with one little pithy thing, which is, we think we're Homo sapiens, thinking guy, frontal lobes, proud. Woo! Look at what we've done on this earth, nuclear power and politics. Homo sapiens is evolving to Homo spiritus.
I love it.
Homo spiritus. Another teacher, and I got this within a few weeks of each other, and it's in the book, and my editor says, do you need all of this? I said, don't you ever remove it. Which is a teacher in Rajasthan, Mount Abu, Vimala. I'm sitting at her feet, and I said to her, "Tell me about God." And she said, "There is no person, it's a field." And she did this above her head. And I said, "What do you see for us, humans?" And she says, "In your lifetime, you're going to evolve into Homo universalis." Homo universalis, the brotherhood of man. And I think it's going on, because when I see the world, my heart is with the Australians. My heart is with Canada. My heart is with the UK. My heart is with Kenya. I want them all to lift themselves up, because things are changing and they're shifting. New things are being, ushered in such a speed. We don't know what's going on sometimes. There's a lot of saturation. So, yes. And I noticed that last year, because I was listening to certain things, and it really deeply bothered me. And I turned to my mom, and she says, "Wow, you're bothered about Australia?" I said, "Yeah, I am. I am." And that was Homo universalis.
That is a beautiful way to end the show. Thank you so much for sharing, for taking the time to come out and come onto our little show. We are so honored for your time and your contribution. Thank you so much, and we'll keep California in our prayers with the flooding that
Yes.
you guys are dealing with right now.
Yes. Thank you very much, John. Sebastian.
Namaste.
Woohoo! I honor you both. Thank you so much.
Thank
A big
you.
namaste and thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us for season 2, episode 1. We are so excited to be back with you guys, and we will see you next week.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. At 7:30 p.m. And we have another guest who's coming on board next Tuesday, so we'll put a post out and let you know who that surprise guest is going to be.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Have a great night. Go out there and amplify your message.